Hello, everyone. Welcome to this special edition of the Believe in Bengal podcast. Of course, we want to take some time to check into our mailbag. So we appreciate all of you who have gone to my Twitter handle and sent in your questions. And also the people who've gone to the Bengals Reddit page who sent in your questions. We want to say thank you because it gives us something to discuss. It allows me to really speak on things that you tell me that you want to know about. And of course, that's what I'm here for. So this gives us some time to kind of connect a little bit more. That's why we love the mailbag session. So let's get it started with what is this? Anna ain't no fool. I guess that's what I'm going to. Anna ain't no fool. Okay. That's it says, how big is the issue of the Cincinnati Bengals run defense after seeing what the Tampa Bay Buccaneers did? They ran ragged over the second and third stringers in the Bengals' first preseason game. Well, the Bengals allowed 136 rushing yards on the ground in the first preseason game. There are 10 teams, by the way, that allowed even more in their very first preseason game. And those teams are the San Francisco 49ers. Think about how good their defense is. But when their starters came out, they gave up more rushing yards than the Bengals did. The Ravens gave up 146 rushing yards in their first preseason game. The Cleveland Browns, who rank first across every metric defensively, they gave up over 150 rushing yards in their preseason game. I think it was to the Miami Dolphins. And then the Buffalo Bills also gave up more rushing yards in their first preseason game than the Cincinnati Bengals. Why did I give you what those teams did? Because their defenses are really good. They had top 10 defenses last year in 2023. But when their starters go out, they struggle. What I'm saying is don't overreact to a preseason game, especially when your non-starters aren't playing. Sheldon Rankins wasn't playing. Trey Hendrickson wasn't playing. Sam Hubbard was not playing. When guys like that are not on the field and you see them starting to gash a little bit, they're pulling your hair out in a preseason game because the backup guys didn't play like they were the first team guys. They're backups for a reason. What you do is you look at the individual performance of each and one of those players and maybe not as a whole and as a group. So I would just say pump the brakes. Let's exhale, allow them to get better, but pay attention to who's making the plays and maybe pay attention who's not. B.J. Hill wasn't in the game. Neither was Sheldon Rankins. Okay, here's another from, I get this is Ryan, 61577. How long will starters such as Chase Brown need to play in order to be ready for the first game and in order to get in shape? I think that's different. Remember, over the last few years, we've had We've had Joe Mixon, who's now going into, I think, his 7th or 8th year as a veteran running back in the NFL. If you have a player that's a 7 or 8 year veteran at the running back position, and he's your starter, but he's a veteran, he's not going to play a lot. He doesn't need to. I don't think you're going to play him a whole lot. But if you are a second year player trying to become your first year starter, Chase Brown is a second-year player, but he hasn't been declared like our number one guy or starter he's got to earn it. He's got to get in these games and earn it. He's got to prove. Now, love his breakaway talent. You love his breakaway speed. I think he will be our starter, but there's a time to earn those things. This is it. But you're not going to treat him like you would if he were an incumbent starter with pelts on the wall of 4 and 5 years behind him. No, this is still time for him to go out and earn the right to be the starter and prove that he is, much better than what he would have been last year. So I think Chase Brown still has some things to prove, but that's okay. I think he's going to live up to it, though. All right, let's go back to the mailbag here. Okay, Redma, who is your feel? Who's the player that you have the best feel for as wide receiver number 3? Is it Yoshi? Is it Jermaine Burton? Or is it Mike Gesicki, the tight end? Great question. There's no doubt. Look, I think at the start of the season, I think it's going to be either Trenton Irwin, but I think Yoshi right now is kind of setting himself apart, particularly as wide receiver number 3. But there is no doubt, Jermaine Burton going into his rookie year, it's a lot to learn this offense. The Bengals offense is a complex one. It's deep. It's thick, right? And for rookies, just got to kind of find a place to get in there. And that slot receiver comes with a lot of responsibilities, hot routes. You know, if Joe Burrow gets in trouble, he's got to be able to trust that you're going to break that vertical route into one that he's got to get rid of it right now because they're blitzing him. And you've got to be able to see it and read it the same way he does. The Princeton grad, Yoshi, I think Joe's really comfortable with him. You saw it on the 23-yard over the middle strike against Tampa. I think there's something growing there. Trenton Irwin, who I absolutely love, I think he's going to be there. Listen, they'll rotate these tight ends, but Mike Gesicki, he won't be that slot receiver, but you're right. He could end up factoring in as your third most productive pass catcher in the offense when we're throwing the football. So I like you including his name in there because he could be the kind of guy that could put up some huge numbers in the Cincinnati Bengals offense. All right, let's go back to the mailbag. These are the ones that we drew from our Twitter handle at Solomon's Wisdom. Eric Walshager. He has 2 questions. I see Eric getting in 2 for 1. Do you see the Bengals pulling off a trade for defensive linemen to get some depth at that position? No, I don't see that happening, even though I like the question because, remember, it was just a few years ago that we traded Billy Price just before the start of the season. That's how we got B.J. Hill. That was the heist of the century. Yeah, we're about 24 years into this century. That was the heist of the first quarter of this century. There's no doubt. What the Bengals were able to do we gave him a ham sandwich. We gave him Billy Price. We get B.J. Hill. B.J. Hill was a baller, a keeper. And so I love the question because something to be on the lookout for. Our depth on the defensive line is going to be challenged. If we lose one more guy, then that answer to that question turns into an emphatic yes. We got to do something. There's no doubt. And also, does Jackson Carman even make it to the end of the preseason? Another good question. Jackson Carman's going, his 5th year, 2nd round pick. This guy was one of the best offensive linemen recruited when he came out of high school. He's one of the best offensive linemen in the nation and played on some great teams at Clemson. I don't know. Sometimes, it's not about can you play. It's about do you love to play. I think that's what we're dealing with right now. I'll end it there. Oh, my guy, Joe Lynn. Joe Lynn is one of the best Americans on this planet. And I got to thank him because he stays on me. He stays after me. And he's one of those guys that's all inclusive. And he's always sought to include me and the good time he has with he and his friends. He does so many wonderful things for so many wonderful people that everybody should know that about Joe Lynn because those who know him know that. There's no doubt. He has a question. He said, how bad is the Amarius Mims injury? And when will Jamar Chase return? Joe, look, I think it's a wait and see kind of thing, right? They're going to allow Mims to heal. Maybe we don't know how much, if it's torn or if it's a sort of a pectoral strain, how much you'll be able to play with pain, or if they're going to allow it to heal before he gets back out there. We don't know. Let's just know this, that he's going to be out for a little bit. They're going to allow him to get healthy before they put him back out there. But the answer to that question, the real answer is we don't know. And we're going to find out when it's time for Amarius Mims to get back out there, because if he re-injures it, that tells us that it was bad to begin with. And he tried to give it some rest for recovery, and he tried to get out there and play, and there was no recovery. If he's able to come back out and play and finishes off the season, then we know that it wasn't that big of a deal. It was just a strain or a pull, not a tear. So I think that's where we're at. Was it a strain? Was it a pull? Did he tear it? You can tear it without ripping it completely, which means you can still play. But no, let's give it some time to rest and see how it feels. I don't. We're somewhere in that spectrum. Okay, so look, we just got. I think let the guy get healthy, and then let's put him back out there. Jamar Chase, when will Jamar return? I think we're going to see Jamar week 1, Paycor Stadium, when the New England Patriots come to town. I don't think he's got. I don't think we're going to see him in the preseason. I think the Bengals are going to sign him to a long-term deal before then, but I don't think we see him until then. And maybe rightfully so. He's played phenomenally well since he arrived here from LSU. The guy is as good as any wide receiver in this league. In fact, there's not one wide receiver I would take over Jamar Chase. All right, back to the mailbag. Here's one from Bengals 8958. How do you see the tight end room working out, and what will Gesicki's role actually look like? That's a good question. Gesicki, I would say, is probably he's as talented as a wide receiver, but he doesn't have the speed and quickness to play outside the numbers like a wide receiver. But if he gets matched up with a linebacker, say, if we get a team in just the wrong personnel grouping where they've got to match a safety or even a linebacker on Gesicki, you can see the ball going to him like on one drive where we go no huddle and they're just pumping him the ball because that's a matchup advantage for the Bengals and a disadvantage for the defense. If you come out and you break the huddle and Mike Gesicki goes out and a corner is on him, then Joe Burrow's not throwing him the ball because the corner is going to be on Gesicki like, white on rice. You're going to be there. I don't think he's getting much separation in that matchup. So that's kind of, I think it's based on matchup. Gesicki's going to win most of his matchups, but that's when he's matched up against a linebacker. I like him against some safeties in this league. I think he runs that good of a route. He's got great pair of hands. I think he's going to be great down inside the red zone. And his reach and what we call our catch radius is phenomenal. So I think he's first in the rotation. We have Drew Sample, who's a little bit more multi-purpose. And then Tanner Hudson. Tanner's got to get it going. Tanner really got it going last year. I think he's got to really play well because if he doesn't, Eric Ald or Tanner Lachlan, the 4th and 6th round pick in this year's draft class, those guys are chomping at the bit. I don't even think we keep 5 guys, to be honest with you. Someone could end up on the practice squad. All right, let's read another one. What do I think about the defensive scheme for the Cincinnati Bengals in terms of what they'll run this season without a true nose tackle? Yeah, look, DJ Reader, those guys are hard to find. Most teams that play in a 3-4 defense don't have a DJ Reader. Most teams that play in a 3-4 defense don't have that true zero technique. So Sheldon Rankins can play an offset nose as opposed to a true zero. He can do more of an offset, and we can slide and kind of line up in the gaps, and you can play with that a little bit. But now that we're starting to take on some injuries in that defensive line room, most of the time when you go to sub packages, you're playing with 4 guys who can get up the field and go pressure the quarterback, and your nose tackle's coming off the field because he's not a true threat in the pass rush game. Sheldon Rankins does get a really good push as far as interior defensive linemen go. He's really good at it. But I think with the way that we're dealing with things, you're probably going to see more of a Joseph Osai sort of as a stacked in, working in the pass rush game with Sam Hubbard and Trey Hendrickson. We're going to be, I think, mixing and matching a little bit, rushing with, maybe 5 guys, less 3-4 for sure. But when you're going to the sub packages, you're probably going to have to bring in, another guy like Joseph Osai. Remember, we lost Cam Sample, who's really good in our sub packages. So it's going to be very interesting to see how they're going to do it. And the depth that we have. But we all know Joseph Osai, if he's going to help us this year, I think it's going to have to be in the pass rush game. It's going to have to be in the sub package as well. That's going to do it. I think, wait a minute. No, we got, let me see. Maybe a couple of more questions on our mailbag, right? There we go. Oh, we do. Oh, this one is a good one. Yes. Okay. Says, is Frank Pollock a good offensive line coach? I got to tell you. Yeah, I think he is. You got to understand when look, there are a lot of coaches who will tell you it's funny. The better players that I have to coach, the better coach I am. There's no doubt. Frank Pollock is a really good offensive line coach. He has a great reputation around the National Football League. I do believe we could be better. This year I want to see us be better at getting the runner to the second level. I thought we did okay in that last year. The runner could have got more out of what the offensive line did. I thought our offensive line was excellent in the run blocking game. I don't think our runner. I think that's why he's now in Houston. And I'm a big Joe Mixon guy, but yards after contact have to come into play. I think you're going to see that with Chase Brown, who can make you miss in a phone booth and still dip out. And I think our yards after contact, which were ranked 32nd, last in the NFL 1 year ago, goes into the top half of the league. If we don't rank top 10, I'll be shocked. We're going to be faster, quicker, leaner coming out of the backfield, and it's going to make our offensive line look better. So Joe Burrow, in fact, in the preseason game against Tampa, 43 dropbacks, I think it was 50 pass plays, something like that. 0 sacks. Couldn't touch any other quarterback. So give the Bengals offensive line some credit. They've gotten better in terms of their talent in the offensive line room. And the coaching has improved. The coaching is obviously going to get better. You only got so much to work with. And the guys they have in there now, they're big body guys who now Coach Pollock is coaching not just, how to be good offensive linemen. He's coaching the mentality that's going to make us nasty. And that's what I'm interested in seeing. All right. That's going to do it for today's mailbag. Keep sending in those questions, particularly as we get into the regular season. We'll check in on Twitter. We'll go to the Bengals Reddit page also, where you can send in questions for me, Solomon Wilcots, or go to my Twitter handle at Solomon's Wisdom. Continue to present your questions. I'm going to bring them right here on the mailbag, and we'll get them answered right here on Believe in Bengals on Bally Sports Ohio. Thank you for joining us, everyone. We'll talk to you next time.